Hi, welcome back to my channel, Open the Door. This is episode 119. Planted, not buried. Surviving stillness without stagnation. So recently on one of my episodes, I referenced a part of my life, a recent part of my life, many months, specifically through the years of 2023 and 2024. These many months I had of isolation. And I talked about a little bit, anyway, how I got a lot of work done during these months of isolation. So this isolation was triggered by my own decision to go solo for the intent of working on my healing and my growth and to focus on going deep, but not from a place of self-pity. So being isolated ended up becoming the very soil where my deepest growth took root. Throughout my healing journey, many days and months of isolation, I had times when I was feeling stuck, like I was in the dark, and I felt like nothing was moving forward. So here's the story of the planting of me in 2023. I'm going to use the analogy of seeds being planted in the soil to talk about this aspect of my life. So planting the seed, well, as I mentioned, I had a natural desire for isolation. I knew that I needed to get out on my own and spend some very quality time with myself, working through issues that I was still suffering from, pain, unresolved things. So this natural desire for solitude was me craving isolation while I was also feeling misunderstood and invisible. But important point that I want to make is that even though I was isolated, self-imposed isolation, I never felt lonely. Although my friends and family drifted away and life got really quiet, except for my 1 or 2 times a week going out to play music at open mics or different venues. But other than that, I was coming home and spending this time in isolation, and I had days where I wondered, was I just wasting my time? Well, where was this stemming from, this need to be isolated and alone so much of the time? Well, I soon realized that I was being encouraged by the presence, the higher power, my angels and my ancestors, and I was being led through divine guidance to accomplish and work through this important healing phase of my life. It wasn't the only healing phase. I've talked about on this channel how it's been over 15 years now that I've been walking this path, but it does come in cycles. So this was my most recent cycle of a big growth spurt, let's say, a spiritual growth spurt. So my stillness was actually preparing me for this growth, and I couldn't see it on the days when I was questioning, what is happening? Am I wasting my time? But the isolation and the inner work was the watering and nurturing that was needed for this seed that I planted in the dark and below the soil. So why was stillness needed? Why did I need this isolation? Well, over the course of just a few months, I realized that whenever I exposed myself to outside influences, it was distracting, I was getting redirected, it was nullifying the inner work that I was doing when I was on my own in the isolation. And I was making some bad choices that just in order to people please and fit in, sometimes dumbing myself down or filtering my conversation just for the need to feel accepted among a group in the social settings. So I realized that I needed to keep a lot of what I was working through and going through personal, keep it personal and within my own boundaries, because it holds more weight when we're doing this inner work and co-creating and co-healing with the divine. As I said, outside influences can alter and even nullify some of that work. So if and when you decide to go into isolation to do some healing work, know that it's important to very carefully choose and decide how you expend your energy outside of your safe space there. So as I said, this seed of my soul that was planted in the dark, just like a regular seed, it looks like nothing is happening. But I had to sit in the stillness in order to gradually emerge and blossom, as seeds often do if they're nurtured, watered, and taken care of. So below the surface, while I was healing wounds and processing pain, roots were forming in the soil and they were creating a strong foundation. Through this deep introspection that I accomplished through journaling and meditation, prayer, reflection, a lot of self-care, and cleansing my energy. Through all these processes, these roots were forming and the transition was already occurring, whether I was fully aware of it or not. Because growth hurts. As I said, this wasn't just a short period of time. This was a good majority of 2023 and 2024, and even leading into 2025. And I'm sure I'll go through another spiritual growth spurt as well in the future, but this one I'm referencing. I started to, one thing that helped was reading past journal entries and looking at the bigger picture and actually realizing how much progress I had made and the difference that I had now in how I view not just myself, but my role in the world around me. So looking back helped me to move forward because I realized the amount of growth in retrospect. And the pain of the growth brought me strength and resolve and courage and resistance. So getting back to the title of the episode, How I Survived Stillness Without Becoming Stagnant. Well, here's the definition of those two terms. Stagnation is when nothing changes because we're resisting. And then there's cyclical patterns of negativity that occur with stagnation. In stillness, change happens in the silent surrender. So eventually, I understood the assignment. I realized I wasn't stuck. There was nothing wrong with me for seeking isolation. What I was doing was aligning. I was being nourished. Layer by layer, by these lessons and wisdom that I was learning, I was emerging from the stillness as a more healthy, young, plantling version of myself. But the process requires a lot of trust and a lot of self-discipline too. You have to use patience and surrender and self-compassion and forgiveness too. But by using all these tools and practicing all this deep reflection, eventually this little seedling, she sprouted and she emerged. And some of the things that I've been exhibiting since then are, well, this channel for one. I had started the channel during this time. But I've mentioned in other episodes too that I have written a book. And I've got several other irons in the fire. I seem to have multiple projects going on all at the same time. So day by day I have to choose which one is which. Because I've evolved and emerged out of the soil with a great amount of creativity and ideas of how I'd like to help improve the world and help others. So I've pushed through the soil and I've reached for the light. And that might seem sudden to those on the outside of my life who kind of saw me go into, I sort of disappeared there off the radar for a while, and then I reemerged as this new forged in fire, phoenix rising version of myself. But the roots that were formed, you see, and that caused this, formed the foundation, they run deep and they help me do the inner work. The deeper I went, the more healing and wisdom I got, and the stronger my roots became, my roots and my foundation. The stem of this metaphorical plant is very strong, and I consider the stem, the thing that upholds me, is my faith and my wisdom from the lessons learned, which helps create stability and strength, just like a real plant. My spirit broke through the surface, cleansed and refreshed, renewed and brighter. And now I'm reaching toward the sun and the light and ready to grow and blossom even more. Here is some reflections for you to think about. If you are sitting in stillness, or is stillness needed, or are you in a stagnant phase in your life? So here's some questions. I normally give you questions to write in your journal or to just jot down and put in a sticky note somewhere in your home where you'll see it often. The first question is, do I need to take time to pause and be still and allow for the roots of reflection, clarity, and healing? The second question asks, it's a continuation of the first. So the first is, do I need to take time to pause and be still? And the second question is, or am I circling these same patterns without any forward movement? The third question is, when I'm in stillness, am I choosing to nurture myself and feed my soul through reading, journaling, meditating, or just resting? Or am I avoiding action from fear of the next step and neglecting myself and wasting time? Good things to consider. So in close, I just like to reiterate this point that this healing process that goes on in this stillness, it's a very personal experience. What's actually happening as you walk the healing path is you are going through your spiritual awakening, whether you want to label it that or not. That's in my mind, that's what it is. So what happens during this stillness is that gradually mysteries of the universe unfold, mysteries about ourselves and the universe. And it takes time for that to happen. We have to sort of clear away all the clutter and unlearn some things before we start to have room in the space to be able to not just have things revealed to us, but also comprehend what these things are. A lot of the revelations that I've had, well, let me not a lot of them, because I share a lot of it with you here, but there's some that are hard to talk about because most people don't get it. And a lot of the inner work, as I said, that we do needs to stay internal. I've had some revelations that I know I will share with the world eventually, but Spirit and my intuition is saying it's not time yet. That I share as much as I possibly can to help you along your path. So keep in mind that isolation doesn't mean it's death of growth. It's the hidden stage of transformation, like a seed below the soil. Stillness isn't wasting time. It's when our roots deepen and the foundation is formed and built on new growth. Awareness is key to knowing when or how long to stay in the soil and when it's time to push forward toward the light. This growth is a mindset, and it might seem invisible, but the season of blooming comes and transformation occurs and beauty is revealed by being persistent, being patient, using self-awareness and self-forgiveness, and taking the time to work on yourself, because you're definitely worth it. So this is our episode for today. Being still, but without being stagnant. I haven't been stagnant. I know it's been a while since I've released a video, but I've been very busy. I have a lot of irons in the fire, and every day I have to choose the priorities of which of those will need attention. And unfortunately, I had to kind of put you guys to the side. So since I saw you last time, I hope you've been doing well, and I will have another video out in just a few more days. So in the meantime, take good care of yourselves. I wish you peace, love, and light. And I'll see you again soon. That's it for now. Bye.